Good, good morning to everyone, and welcome back again. Here we are, an international audience of teachers, educators, all interested in gifted and talented education and the Renzulli learning. And so hopefully all of you have had a break, a good rest, and you're ready now to listen once again to Sandra Mbah. Sandra is a graduate student at Emporia State University in Kansas, and she is in her second year. She's a major in clinical psychology, and she is getting a deep dive this summer in gifted and talented education, working for Connie as a research assistant. So let's welcome once again, Sandra Mbah.
Hello, thank you. Share my screen. Okay, hi. So today I'm going to be talking about cultural differences between Nigeria and America, things that are different in both places, basically. I'm just going to start with the school and community. I think one of my biggest cultural shock in America was in school, because when I came to America, within a few days, I was straight into summer school. And I wasn't prepared for the students and teacher interaction. Uh, like students in America, not all, but sometimes can be very disrespectful to the teachers. And I remember when that first happened, I was so shocked. And I was just like, oh, you're dead. Like the teacher's about to just kill you. And the teacher was just like, okay, that's it, detention. And I didn't know what detention was until a friend told me. Um, and I was like, really? That's it? Like, we just, that's it. And yeah, that was it. In Nigeria, you don't talk back to people that are older than you. It's seen as disrespectful. In my years of living in Nigeria, it doesn't matter what the teacher does. You don't disrespect the teachers. You always have to respect them. So that was a very big cultural shock for me. Whereas in America, and usually, I mean, not all teachers are nice, of course, but most teachers in America are really nice, really caring. So I don't know, it was, it was just a shock for me. And then when it comes to discipline in America, you cannot really discipline your kids. Well, physically, it's against the law, if I'm correct. So I guess you have to stick with timeouts. In Nigeria, there's no such thing as government telling you what to do with your kids. You can discipline them whatever way you want. But of course, if you cross the line between discipline and you enter abuse, if your neighbor sees your child has bruises all over, they can call the police and you will get arrested for that. But you can definitely discipline your kids physically in Nigeria. And then another thing that I noticed in America, and this is not all, but some places or some races, they call their parents based on first name. Yeah, that's impossible in like African countries. And I speak for the whole African country. That's seen as disrespect. You have to call them like mommy, daddy, whatever, but not by their first name. And then when it comes to education in America, education is important, but not really, really important to Americans. And I say this because I've seen a lot of people say, oh, college is not for me, or once they finish high school, they kind of like don't go to college. Most times they just go the route of working, I don't know, at grocery stores or something other than career jobs. And it's like a normal thing in America now. But in Nigeria, college is very, very, very important. Even most people, like 99%, go to college. The ones who don't, do not choose not to go by choice, is usually by circumstances, financial, circumstances, which, because we don't get the kind of assistance that you have in America. So the ones who don't go to universities just don't go because they don't have the money to, but they really want to. Even the poor, people from poor families, their parents typically have to hustle, sell clothes, sell their belongings just to train their child through universities. That's how important education is to Africans. So that was the big difference between America and Nigeria when it comes to those aspects. When it comes to the houses, American houses are very different from Nigerian houses. I noticed the first time I came here, like the second, that I guess the houses in America are made of wood. And I get the point of that, since you guys have tornadoes and stuff like that. So it's just safety. Nigerian houses are typically made of bricks, cement. So they're a lot stronger and sturdier. Like it doesn't matter how heavy you are or how hard you like stomp around, you're not going to hear squeaky sounds, which drives my mom crazy. American houses, typically you hear those squeaky sounds, but that's kind of like the differences. And when it comes to buying houses in America, you typically have like loans, mortgages, insurance, taxes, payment plan. And this is where I meant by the salary that teachers get paid. When you hear 80,000 Naira a month, it's actually pretty good. But when you're from a country where there's no insurance, no payment plan, no loans, it kind of hinders, how much you can spend on yourself. So we don't do loans in Nigeria. We don't do payment plan. If you don't have the money to buy it, by one payment plan only, then you just don't get it. And that's for healthcare, because there's no insurance. So if you go to the hospital and you need to have surgery, it's an emergency. If you don't have however much the doctor calls for you, you don't get the treatment. And then we typically build our houses from scratch, like from the ground up, which is why houses in Nigeria are more architecture pleasing to look at. In America, the houses are typically like, if you go to a neighborhood, the houses typically look like each other, just a little bit of difference. But in Nigeria, since everyone builds their house themselves, it's different, it's creative, because everyone has their own taste. And you typically either buy a land to do so, or you inherit a land. And back then, even now, lands were seen as generational wealth, and it still is. So the more lands you acquired, the higher your status was. And this land, you pass it down to your children, and they can build, real estate, just whatever they wanted on that land to like rent out and get money. So yeah, and that's why we don't have mortgages, because you're building it yourself. So you don't have to deal with that. And of course, we don't have taxes. Oh, and I forgot to add, when it comes to American houses, the floors are typically made of wood or rug. And in Nigeria, the floors are always made with marbles. So growing up, the floor I grew up with were marble floors, which is a big difference. When it comes to the food, in America, I don't, the food tastes unique. I don't know, I haven't been into American foods. I still eat African foods, Nigerian foods. Um, I, when you grow up with organic foods and then you come here where most of your food is GMO, it tastes funny in your mouth. They're good, don't get me wrong. They're very good, but it tastes, you can taste, it has a taste to it. And I don't know, I can't get used to it. That's why like when I try fruits, um, which they don't really have much variety of fruits, but when I try them, you can taste I don't know, you can just tell it's not actual organic fruits. I remember when I saw chicken in America, I was like, whoa, this chicken is so big. Like, it's just huge. And they eat this like everyday chicken. And I was like, and I was just like, this is really big. In Nigeria, the chickens are not supposed to be that huge. They're huge, but not that huge. There's a size to them. They have a natural flavor. Because we typically, when you have chickens, when you raise them, uh, they're not in a cage. They just roam free and they come back to your house actually when it's evening time. And they basically eat what you eat, honestly. So when you're done with your food, you just throw the scraps on the floor and they eat it. And something that we do in, I want to say every African country, is if I'm eating and my friend is here and she's not eating, you have to say, come and join me. It doesn't matter if I'm eating and we're in Zoom, I have to say, come and join me. It's just a sign of respect that you have to do. And your friend or whoever you don't know might be like, yes or no. And if they say yes, you have to let them eat from your food, honestly. And then when you have visitors in America, when you have visitors, I don't know, I guess you just have them. But in Nigeria, when you have visitors, you have to offer them something. You typically cook for them. Because I know when my friend came over to my house for the first time, my mom had to like prepare this big dish. And I was like, you don't really have to do that, but yeah, you do. It's just like a cultural thing. Even if like the visitor comes unannounced, they have to stay till the food is done and then you serve them the food. Or if you don't have any food at home, you have to give them like a drink and snacks, just like an offering to say, welcome to my house, basically. So these are kind of like the differences when it comes to food. And of course, like most of the food, not most, all the foods in Nigeria, typically organic, unless you're eating like snacks. So of course they're not. Grocery shopping is kind of different in America. You have like grocery stores where you get the cart and you get your food, you pay at the register. We have those in Nigeria, those kind of grocery shops. We call them ShopRite. But most people tend to shop from a market. A market, you don't use cards, it's only cash only. When you go to a market, you don't have a cart, you have to carry them, or you hire someone to carry it for you and then you pay them. When you go to the market, however, you can bargain the prices. So in America, you don't really get to bargain prices. However, whatever price you see on that tag, that item, that's what you have to pay. But in Nigeria, when you go to the market, if they're selling tomatoes for, I don't know, $20, you could be like, well, this looks like it's $8. And of course, the seller is going to be like, well, no, now she's going to try to like, sell you on her stuff and tell you, oh, this is real, it's fresh, it's organic. So maybe $15. And you can either take it or leave it on both sides. But typically you come down to an agreement of what price to pay. It's not going to be the price that you want or that she wants, the seller wants, but it's going to be a discount price. So I actually prefer buying from markets than actual grocery store in Nigeria. So those are like the differences when it comes to markets and grocery store in America. And this also applies to clothing. If you go to a market where they sell clothes, jewelries, whatever, you can always bargain your prices. Whereas in America, you don't. Whatever price they give you is what you get. And then in America, most times, if something electronic or a watch or just anything damages, it kind of costs more to repair it than to buy a new one. So you typically just go out and buy a new one. But in Nigeria, you have like shoemakers, tailors, people that can mend your damaged product for far less, and you save your money. But yeah. And then when it comes to the greeting, each tribe has a different way of greeting. So for the sake of time, I cannot go over every tribe, but I will use two main tribes. So for this one over here, this is how the Yoruba men greet. You greet a family member, a family friend. You have, in the Yoruba culture, the Yoruba tribe, you have to lay down flat on the floor and greet the person. And the person, asks how your mom is, how your dad is, how you're doing, and sometimes give you some blessings. It doesn't matter if you see them on the road, in public, they have to do this right here. And then the Igbo men, which is my tribe, they greet differently. If they're holding, and this is only for members of that tribe. So if they're holding a hand accessory, which is what this cane, stick, or whatever you want to call it is, they hit it against each other and they do it 3 times. And of course, as they're doing it, they're praising each other. So that's the way they greet. And if it's been a long time since they've met or seen, they keep going and keep, the longer it is, the more praise they give each other. And then over down here is also another way that Igbo people greet, or the Igbo men greet themselves. If they don't have any hand accessories, if both people don't have any hand accessories, they use their palm, the back of their hand, and they hit it against each other again 3 times and just give praises. And then it ends with a blessing from both ends. So greeting is very important, is a sign of respect. In America, they greet each other, but it's not any special kind of greeting. It's just like a morning or how you doing. And if I come to someone's house, I have to greet everyone. Again, greeting is a really big sign of respect. And then, of course, each tribe has its own way of greeting. Also, something that's very different in Nigeria versus America is that in America, if your mom has a friend, you call them by their name, right? But in Nigeria, you kind of call everyone uncle and auntie as a respect thing. So if my mom has a friend or my dad has a friend, even though they're not family, you have to put the uncle or the auntie there as a respect thing. You cannot call them by their first name. It is very disrespectful. And then if it's like someone who's not a family friend, you have to say ma'am or sir or madam or oga. That's what we typically say. And I think I forgot to leave this part out, but in America, there's nothing wrong in using your left hand, right? You can use your left hand to give someone something, nothing happens. But in Nigeria, you can't use your left hand, which is, I find this so ridiculous, but it's a sign of disrespect. Um, my mom, for instance, was born being left-handed, but now she uses both hands because in Nigeria, if you're left-handed, I just feel bad for you because it's seen as being disrespectful. So if I hand something to someone older than me with my left hand, I'm going to get, disciplined because that is rude. So you don't want to do that. They correct you from the time you're a baby until you learn how to use the right hand. It's funny because even in America, even though I know it's not a bad thing in America, I still catch myself doing it. Like when I hand my paper to my professors, I literally have to apologize and take it back and give it to them with my right hand, even in the grocery store. And they think like, what the hell is wrong with this person? But it's just something that's, ingrained in my brain that I have to apologize and give it back with my right hand. So using your left hand is seen as rude, but that's not the case in America. Another differences is in Nigeria, you typically deal with social class competitions, right? Either you're rich or you're poor, or either you're rich or you're in between or you're poor. And depending on your social class determines how people would treat you, but not treat you like in a bad way. Just treat you like if you're rich, you get more, they're more patient with you, more respect. If you're poor, they're not going to disrespect you, but they're just going to treat you like the rest of us, right? The rest of the regular people. And I noticed this being that my parents were from the high place. It's evident. But it's like you have to kiss ass with the rich man so you can be on good side with them, basically. But in America, they do have social class, but it's not as bad, I would say, as Nigeria, but they also have racial issues, which is something that I never knew about. I never grew up with in Nigeria. There is no racial issues in Nigeria. I wasn't used to being discriminated against for anything, not my color, not my tribe. I just wasn't used to it until I didn't even know about it until I came to America and I saw that there is a racial issue in America. And then within the Black community, there is a colorism issue. And honestly, this is, apart from America not having free healthcare, this is one of the reasons why I just cannot leave or raise a family in America. The racial issue scares me. It's kind of, I had a bad experience with it when I was younger. I think I was only in America for a year at the time. And this one time I just got back from school and I forgot my keys to my house. And my parents came back very late at night. So I had to call them, but I didn't have my phone with me. So from the TV, in America, they make it seem like, your neighbors is who you run to for emergency, right? If you need to use a phone or something. At the time I was living in an all-white neighborhood. Again, nobody spoke to each other, which is another thing. So I went down the street. So the lady that's the only lady who spoke to us. So I was on my way to our house. It was just down the street. And there was a group of white guys playing football. And mind you, I had on my school bag and my school ID, and I could feel them stopping their game and just staring at me and watching me. And I went to the lady's house and I knocked on the door, but no one answered. And I figured no one was around. But either way, I was ready to leave. So I just said, okay, one more stop. And if no one gives me, if no one answers, I just go back home. So I stopped at this one guy's house down the street again. And I knocked on his door and it was this big white guy. And he opened the door and I explained my situation to him. And I, pleaded with him if I could use his phone. And he was just like, nope. And he slammed that door shut in my face. And I was like, you don't have to tell me twice. I was like, trust me, I'm scared too. So I just left. And I was on my way back home. And believe it or not, there was cops following me. And it was like 2 to 3 cops. And again, I've never had an encounter with a cop. We don't have this in Nigeria, like this issue. So I had a cop and he just approached me. And thankfully, it was the nice cop that approached me first, because had it been the second cop, I have no doubt I would have ended up differently. So the cop approached me and said that someone called and said that there was a anonymous call that a Black girl was peeping through people's window. And then I was like, well, I explained my situation, which is, I wasn't peeping through anyone's window, but I could still see that he was doubting me. And then while we were talking, another cop pulls up and he's like screaming, do you need backup? And I'm like, back up? I'm a kid. But anyway, so he was nice enough to drive me to a friend's place. And that was that. But, it was kind of like a moment for me, a cultural shock for me, that the color of your skin does matter in America. And, I just did. Since then, I just never really felt comfortable leaving or raising a family in America. But that's really a big cultural shock that I had to get used to in it's kind of different in America. I noticed that even some of my friends, okay, my connection is still there. Some of my friends, they have to pay bills at home. In America, typically at 18 years old, sometimes your parents kick you out when you turn 18, or the ones who don't get kicked out from home, they just feel the need to leave the house and move out and live on their own. And they pretty much support themselves from then on. But in Nigeria, you do not pay bills in your house. That's a no-no. Not the children, the parents pay the bills. And at 18 years old, you're not moving out your parents' house unless you're in college and you have to stay in the dorms or off-campus apartment. But when you finish college, it's okay for you to still come back and live with your parents while working a career job until you're financially ready to move out. They don't kick you out at 18. No. And then your parents support you, support your well-being throughout college. From the time you were born to you finish college, your parents are the one paying your rent, paying your bills, majority of the time. The only time that doesn't happen is if the parents are too poor to do that, like very poor. But even then, when they're poor, the parents supports, pay financial, the college fees and everything. And the child only has to hustle for themselves and pay for rent and food. But majority of the time they pay for everything, because in African culture, well, Nigerian culture, the job of the child is to go to school, study hard, get good grades, come out and take care of your parents, while it's the parents' responsibility to take care of the child. So that's the kind of differences, because in America, when you're in your 20s staying with your parents, you're kind of seen as a bum, like a loser or something. But that's not the case in Nigerian culture. It's normal. Your parents wouldn't even let you move out at 18 unless you're going off to college, So when it comes to the elderly people, the old people in America, you guys have something called nursing homes, which is where, like, if your parent is getting old or too old or needs assistance, they typically put them in a nursing home. And the old people in America are kind of seen as a burden to society. Um, Nobody really caters to the old demographic in America, but in Nigeria, we don't have nursing homes. Honestly, even if we did have nursing homes, nobody would be using them. Um, the idea of a nursing home is seen as a abomination. I don't know if you know what that means in Nigeria, like a forbidden act. When your parents get old, what typically happens is that the children hires a maid, a housemaid, a cook, a driver, and a security guard, which is a gatesman. If you don't have that much money, you at least are going to hire a housemaid who's also a cook and a driver. This is basically someone who can cook, who cleans the house, and of course you're paying them, and someone who drives the parents around when they need to. Of course, you're going to pay the driver, and then a security guard. So the kids, it's like a cycle, right? Your parents took care of you. Now that they're old, you're going to have to reciprocate that same gesture that they did for you. And this way, your parents are not stressing themselves, working hard, doing things around the house, driving, they're basically living this luxurious life. It's your time to enjoy the fruit of your labor, basically. So we don't take them to nursing homes. And even if they have health issues that requires a lot of assistance, what typically happens is they hire someone who comes to take care of them at home, or sometimes live in their house, right? While taking care of their parents. And if you don't want that, or if you don't feel comfortable with that, one of the siblings offers to come back home and take care of their parents. My mom's sister had to do that for my grandma. She had to stop everything she was doing and come back and take care of her parents. And then if they're too old to stay by themselves, what always happens is one of the children decides, you know what, I want mom or dad in my house. So the parents move into the child's house and stay there till they die. This way, everyone wins because the parents is not lonely. Old people get lonely. So they have their grandkids. They're teaching their grandkids the culture, the tradition of whatever tribe they're from. The parents of the child, right, their daughter or son, gets a free nanny because she's basically watching over your kids, so you don't have to spend money on nannies. So, and this way your child is learning the traditions. This way everyone typically wins in this situation. And the elderly people are very respected in society. I mean, very respected in society. If you can offer your seat to them, help them with stuff, like they're important to our society. Especially in my tribe, well, every tribe, honestly. And when it comes to decision making, the elderly people in that family are basically the decision makers. They're always included in any decision making. If anything, the younger ones come to the old ones for solutions, for answers. If there is a drama or fights going on in the family, the elderly ones are supposed to step in and say, give their say in the situation, which usually dies down the family issue. So that's kind of the differences when it comes to elderly people in America versus Nigeria. When it comes to marriage, it's very different. In America, you typically, the guy proposes and, the girl says yes or no, and they get married. Well, they plan for the marriage and they get married, right? Um, which is like a white wedding. Well, in Nigeria, each tribe has different rules and customs to marriages. But again, to save time, I decided to just focus on my tribe, which is Igbo tribe, on how the Igbo marriage goes. Now we have two types of marriages. We have the white wedding. That's if you choose to do it, it's optional, but majority, actually everyone, does traditional marriage, which is like the picture you're seeing right here, is what a traditional marriage looks like. And it's where you dress in your traditional attire for your tribe. So yeah. Now, of course, when you do that, some people also do the white weddings, but it's optional for white wedding. You don't have to wear a red attire for an Igbo wedding, traditional wedding. I just happened to pick brides who had on red, but you can wear any color. So this is how the Igbo marriage goes. They have something called marriage introduction, which is where your parents are meeting your husband to be for the first time. Your parents don't meet your husband to be when you're dating, which is another thing. In America, is very common for you to bring your boyfriend or your girlfriend to your parents and introduce them. Well, in Nigeria, your parents don't care to meet your boyfriend or girlfriend. First of all, they assume you don't have any, but you don't bring them to the house. The only time they care to meet who you're dating is if he wants to put a ring on your finger. And by that, I mean he has actually proposed. If he hasn't proposed, they don't know, they don't understand why you're bringing him to them or she to them. So you only bring the person to them when they propose to you. So marriage introduction is where the groom, the guy, comes to your house and makes his intentions known to your parents. And of course, he's going to come with his people, meaning the old men in his family, like the elders and his father, uncles, and he makes his intentions known. And the parents are like, okay, we've heard, we'll think about it. And what they mean by think about it is they're going to do some investigation on your family, which we call family background investigation. This is where carrying yourself in a certain way matters. So in Nigeria, when you step out your house, you have to carry yourself with respect and like you have manners, because when you step out your house, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your family's name and also your tribe. So if I step out the house and I'm acting foolish in public, someone who knows me or knows of me is going to say, isn't that the mother or the father of so and so? So they're not calling me by my name, they're referring back to my parents. So whatever I'm doing out in public I'm not supposed to be doing is reflecting bad on my parents. And then if they don't know you, they typically can tell what tribe you're from. And they typically, would be like, is that how Igbo people act? Or is this how Igbo girls act? You're bringing a bad rep on your tribe. That's why when we step out, most Africans, they usually step out like they have some sense. You can't be stepping out acting crazy. And a lot of times I've had a lot of Black Americans tell me that, oh, Africans, especially Nigerians, try to act proper because they want to be closer to the white man or get a different treatment. But what they don't understand is it has nothing to do with that. It's just a cultural thing. We're brought up this way to step out like that, acting proper outside. So the Igbo family does a family background investigation, which is where they send someone to investigate about your family, not just your immediate family, your extended family, you know, about your people. What are you guys like? Is there any scandal? Is there any characteristics, any bad traits? You know, is someone in your house a drunkard? Are you a drunkard? You know, like just something. So if it comes back good, if the record that they have of you and your family is good, then they feel comfortable enough to let their daughter decide if she wants to marry you. Of course, the daughter knows the guy, they've been dating, but then they bring the daughter out because the guy comes back again to ask for the same, you know, the same thing. And they bring the daughter out and she has to say yes or no. This is where consent matters. You can't really do a forced marriage in an Igbo tradition, because in Igbo tradition, during marriage, the bride has to give a consent. So if she says no, you cannot go further with that marriage. It's impossible. But if she says yes, then the marriage thing can begin, the process can begin. And what typically happens is when the bride says yes, they give something, the groom gets something called a bride price. It's not selling your child out on a price. No, a bride price is where the groom and his people are given a list of things that they have to buy. A bride price is very expensive. And the Igbo people are known to have the most expensive bride price. And depending on what Igbo town or place, some are higher than others, even in dollars. It's very expensive. And the purpose of this is that it tells the parents that you're financially stable to take care of their child. So if you cannot afford a bride price, then you cannot afford to take care of their daughter and give her that well life that she's been used to. So the groom has to take the list and come back with all the things mentioned in the bride price. And some of those things are a bunch of expensive gifts to the father, the mother, the bride, and the elders in the town, in that community. And that's what it basically is. And then we have something called a palm wine carrying, which is where the bride over here, during the process of the wedding, well, the actual wedding, the bride has to take the palm wine, which is an actual alcoholic drink, but a Igbo traditional alcoholic drink. She takes it in a cup to her husband. But the thing is, they have hidden her husband in the crowd. She doesn't know where. So this is your job to look for your husband. This proves to us that you know who you're marrying. So she looks for him. And when you find him, you get down on both knees and you take a sip, and then he has to finish the rest. When he finishes it, he has to put money in the cup. And then they both go to the parents. And this is them walking towards the parents. And over here, they both get down on both knees, and you can see the parents praying for them and giving them blessings, which is what typically happens. And then, you carry on with the wedding stuff. There is something called spraying money in Nigeria. In America, I think you only typically see this in the strip club, but in Nigeria, spraying money is like our culture. It's usually done during funerals, birthdays, weddings, whatever. You spray money. So the rule of this game is, it's not a game, but the rule of this tradition is, if someone dances, you have to spray them money. It doesn't matter where it is. It could be like a restaurant club. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not like a club. It's a restaurant where they play music. If the person gets up and starts dancing, you have to spray them money. And usually it's sprayed, you get sprayed money during birthdays because it's your birthday. So you, of course, you're dancing. And at weddings, this is the bride and the groom dancing and they're being sprayed money. Anyone comes up to them and just sprays them money. And on the floor, that all is money. So it's really a lavish tradition. And you usually have your close people who picks up the money for you, because as you can see, it gets to be a lot of money all over the floor and someone has to help you pick them up. But yes, spraying money is a thing. Um, and usually they spray any currency. The three main currency is naira, pounds, or dollars is what they spray on you. And then, yeah, but that's like a tradition that we do. Our funerals are different. In America, I believe funerals are, I guess you have it, you do the viewing of the body. Some people pray, like take them to church and you bury them. In my tribe, Igbo tribe, our funerals are different. There is rules and customs to burying the dead. In Igbo culture, in Igbo tradition or Igbo tribe, burials are very sacred. They believe in, you have to give your parents a befitting burial because they believe in another world apart from the physical. So for your parents to be able to move into that world, the burial needs to be very, befitting. Well, in my village, they just installed a rule where there's no burials during Christmas period. So if you lose your parents or someone during Christmas, you can't bury them during Christmas. You have to wait until Christmas period, which is December period, is over, and then you can start preparing them. And the reason for this is because Christmas is a big thing in Nigeria, a really big thing, especially in my tribe, because we all come back to the village and celebrate, and they don't want anyone being sad on Christmas Day. So that's why. But we typically have two burials. The first burial, which is the main burial, it lasts for days, or depending on who you are, weeks. I know my grandfather, who we buried last year, his burial was for a whole week straight, like back to back. It was a burial, a party, a celebration. But yes, so the first thing that we have is wake keep. This is where they haven't buried the body yet. They haven't brought the body back from the mortuary or wherever it goes, I don't know, but they haven't brought the body back. It's just the townspeople, people in the town. It's not just for family members. Oh, by the way, when someone dies, especially in the village, the whole town shows up. So the whole town comes. It's very expensive. I mean, very expensive. Funerals cost typically more than my student loans. But the whole town shows up. There is food, there is drinks, there is party, music. You're talking about the man, people give stories about him. There's like video cameras everywhere, people recording you, like the video man just going about recording each person. So that's what the wake keep is. And then the next day is the actual burial. And that's when you can start crying. I mean, not saying that they don't control when you cry, but typically you start crying on that day because the body, you get to see it. And this is when the immediate family, if it's a father who died or a mother, the parent, the family, the actual family, the children, they come in to see, they have a special attire that they wear. We wear a special uniform, and then the extended family has their own uniform, and the in-laws have their own uniform. So it's a uniform thing, and this is the way you identify, rankings of, like, this is his kids, this were his immediate people, stuff like that. You just identify people that way. And we view the body and we take them to church. We have your prayer ceremony, and he gets buried. And this is where, again, another celebration party, music, everything comes. It's like people say Igbo funerals are like weddings or a party, because you're basically celebrating, the life that he lived, unless it's a painful death. Painful death is suicide, a baby who died before their teeth grew in, or if you die very young, that is a painful death. And you don't really get a lot of, you get celebration, but you also hear people crying during the celebration. And then we had in-laws day, which is where only the in-laws come are invited to the ceremony for that burial. Again, another celebration party. And then the second burial happens a year later. It is a requirement that when you bury your family member, after a year, you have to come back to do your memorial ceremony. And a memorial ceremony is basically another celebration, food, drinks, music. It's basically just celebrating your parents or family member for crossing over to the next life. And to remember them. That's basically what it is. And in this picture over here, this is what we call masquerade. A masquerade in Igbo language is called umon. And what these are they're sacred. It's a sacred thing. You don't know who's behind the mask. Only the people in that society, in that fraternity knows, it's a secret organization, knows who's inside the mask. And only men can do this. It's just specifically for men. And certain masquerade are only meant for the eyes of the men. But of course, we get a sneak peek. Basically, a masquerade doesn't really like women. And I mean this in a fun way, because this is actually one of the things I looked forward to when I always went back home in a village every Christmas, because we, the females, well, they warn you about the time you can come out, because during Christmas, the masquerade, they all come out and they have this long cane. And if they see any female, they're supposed to whoop you until they get tired. So, and you get a warning when they're coming out. But what we do as the females is we actually go to them. And the game is, if they start chasing you, you better be fast enough and start running. And I don't know why we do this. It sounds crazy, but we think this is fun. So yeah, that's basically what a masquerade is and how our funerals are very different. And then when it comes to childbirth, in America, I think you just have you have a baby shower. That's very important in American culture. There's always a baby shower. And then you have the baby, you give it its name. And I think the parents get like a maternity leave or something like that. But in Nigeria, well, in Igbo culture, because each tribe has a different tradition for childbirth. But in Igbo tribe, a childbirth is very important. It's this big thing, right? The first thing is we have something called, I guess, a baby shower, but we just call it a celebration. It's where all the women in the village, in the town, they come to the house and they sing joyful songs to the, pregnant lady. They give her gifts, they give her blessings to the newborn. And then we have something called omugwo. And omugwo has been a tradition since beginning of the Igbo tribe. It has actually stayed that way. So nothing has changed. Omugwo is a must when a child gives birth, when a daughter gives birth. for her husband, the mother of that, her mother comes to her house, and the mother of the daughter, or the mother comes to her daughter's house, and she has to stay there for 6 months or a year. So from 6 months through a year. You can't stay anything shorter than 6 months. Omugwo lasts for 6 months, but you can stretch it into a year. And what Omugwo is basically her mother prepares special diets for her daughter who just gave birth. This diet consists of yam and pepper soup. And when I say yam, I don't mean what Americans call yam, because what Americans call yam is sweet potatoes, but what we call yam is actual cassava. And it's right here. This white stuff is yam, which is actually my favorite food. But she prepares yam and pepper soup. Pepper soup is made of special ingredients that you can only find in like Igbo culture, like the villages. So they have their own special spices, and it's made with assorted meats, so different kinds of meats. And this helps loosens and washes out, the blood clots of the nursing mother who just gave birth. And she typically is going to eat this and other foods, of course, but special diets throughout the 6 months to a year that the mother is staying there. And then the newly mother doesn't do anything apart from eating, breastfeeding her baby, sleeping, and receiving visitors who are coming to congratulate her during these months, because her mother is going to be doing everything for her. This basically gives the newly mother, a time to recover, regain her strength, and because she just brought a life into this world, and basically just enjoy motherhood. And her mother would typically give her daughter water treatments and massages. And this is a religious thing. She has to do it twice per day. And what this is this consists of a bathing the nursing mother twice a day with hot compresses applied to the abdominal area and the genital area. And this facilitates a quick healing of the vagina. And the mother will also bathes and massages her grandchild during her stay, because this makes the baby flexible. And then when it's time for her mother to leave, her daughter and her husband gives the mother a whole bunch of stuff. It's their way of saying thank you, but they do it because, and by stuff, I mean African materials, wears, wrappers. And this is because it's like, I know my baby, probably poo-pooed on you or peed on you and stained your clothes. So now here are new clothes, and basically saying thank you. And this is a tradition that it's a must in Igbo culture. And then we have the naming ceremony after childbirth. Typically, we have more than one names, and that's for any tribe in Nigeria. I have 3 names. And the naming ceremony occurs during the 7th day or the 12th day. And when this happens, it also involves ancestors recognition, which is where you give praise to your ancestors. You thank them for this childbirth. And they typically plant a live plant to represent the life and survival of that child, that baby. And Igbo names tend to be based on observations, birthmarks, some other remarkable characteristics. So like, they don't just pick any random name. When they name you, they typically, they really observe the baby and the way the mother carried the pregnancy. Was it a hard pregnancy? Was it something that the parents were longing for? Like, was it from a family who couldn't have kids? They have meanings to the names when they name you. So every name typically, and this is for every tribe in Nigeria, every name has a meaning, and they really put in thoughts towards the name they're going to give that specific child. And the privilege of naming is reserved for the parents and the grandparents. So we typically have an English name, but then we also have tribal names. But some people don't actually have English names, but they do have tribal names. So yeah. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Let me go back. Oh, is that stay here?
Thank you so much, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you.
Look in the chat box to see if we have any questions. Do we?
Sì, posso parlare? Lucia, mi traduci brevemente? Sì, volevo dire che ho trovato alcune cose simili anche alle tradizioni, diciamo, qui del sud. Per esempio, per quanto riguarda il matrimonio, no? Mi veniva in mente quella, come dire, quell'elargizione che viene fatta di denaro. Da noi esiste una tradizione simile, insomma, almeno in alcuni paesi, magari in città no, ma lo dico brevemente, in cui vengono tagliati gli abiti dello sposo, per esempio la cravatta, e viene venduta, o gli abiti degli sposi vengono venduti per far soldi. Mi ha ricordato un po' alcune cose, vabbè. Ok, ci provi.
Yes, I try. Now, Alessandra said that some traditions are very similar to some that we have in South Italy. Like, for example, during the wedding, people invited to the ceremony give money for the bride and for the new couple. And in particular, Alessandra said that there is this tradition to cut the tie of the man and to cut it in little pieces and to sell to other people who gave money. It's just a symbolic tradition. So she said this.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
Nice.
There is a question. Jill has a question. Without insurance or mortgages, what is the banking system like? How do people save their money and keep it safe for larger expenses like buying land, building a house, or being prepared for medical emergencies?
Okay, so Jill is asking how the banking system is like without insurance, how we save money. The banking system is basically like your typical bank, you know, to put in your money, save your money, receive money, all that, but they just don't give you loans when it comes to buying houses or cars or anything. They don't give out loans, but the bank works like your regular banks. And that's why when I was talking about the salary that teachers make, when you hear 80,000 a month, you know, you're like, oh, that's good. But when you think about the way it's set up, it kind of limits you to, you know, spending. But people save, which is where you have the bank to put in your money to save it, to buy land. You have to make money. Or like I said, you have to inherit your lands. So like my dad, he has a whole bunch of lands, but he inherited it because his father had a whole bunch of lands. So again, lands were like, the more lands you have, the more important or richer you were in society. So typically you inherit a land or you buy a land with the money that you save. The thing is, you have to have the money ready during that time you want to buy it. You don't do a payment plan. So you have to wait till you gather all the money needed to buy the land, if that makes sense.
Yes. Lucia, you want to translate?
It was already translated by the subtitles.
Okay.
But if you want, I can translate. Hanno chiesto come funziona il sistema bancario, visto che non ci sono mutui o prestiti, e semplicemente funziona come una banca regolare, solo che non concedono prestiti, e sinceramente la vede anche come una cosa positiva, perché se devi fare degli acquisti devi avere i soldi pronti, quindi compri solo se te lo puoi
al
permettere.
sud, qui al sud Italia succede la stessa cosa. Molto
Ecco,
spesso sì, io vedo, guarda, delle affinità, perché spesso accade, insomma, in alcuni paesi, ovviamente parlo non della città, in cui soprattutto, che ne so, gli agricoltori, i contadini conservano il loro denaro, non lo portano in banca e poi quando ne hanno, diciamo, a sufficienza, comprano altra terra, un po' come raccontava Sandra.
sì,
Sì,
sì, infatti
fanno la
diceva
stessa
che
cosa.
più terre hai e più
Sì,
sei
più ricco sei.
considerato.
E dalle nostre parti, sì, c'è questa tradizione, cioè
Okay,
quella di comprare.
okay. Alessandra says that even this idea of the land, the more land you have, the more richer you are. It's the same in some
Oh, really?
areas in the South Italy where farmers save their money and don't put in to the bank, and then they use them to buy land.
Really nice.
Mhm.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Well,
Scusate, ma... No.
well, even in America, it's to have land is valuable. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Mhm.
And another question, Vania says that you said that in Nigeria, every boy or girl, when in public, is attentive to their behavior because he is the representative of his family, tribe. And how do you feel to always be the representative of a culture, a tribe, or family when you are in public? Can you make actions or choices that are truly your own? Do you feel that your individuality exists? Is it a problem for you, or do you simply live it as the fruit of your education?
Yeah, well, yes, it doesn't feel like pressure because when I say that you represent your family and your tribe, you can still be yourself. You can still, go to parties, do whatever you want. But I mean, you can't be fighting in public, being rude to people, being just basically being negative to someone, being very disrespectful, because again, respect is a big thing. So when you go outside, you can't just be yelling at people and being rude. That's what I mean by it reflects badly on your family. Or you can be outside drinking, getting drunk, or smoking, doing drugs and in public, because when someone finds out, again, it reflects bad on your family. It gives your family a bad name. So it doesn't feel like pressure because it's things that you're not supposed to be doing anyway. It's like negative things that are bad for you. So it's not like they control what you actually do. You can do your regular stuff, just not acting crazy in public, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yes. And then Jill says, thank you. I assume there was a banking system or some way for people to safely save.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah.
What is that way? How do they safely save?
Oh, they have like the bank has a saving account, checking account. It works the regular way that banking works here. So like in America, when you want to withdraw a huge amount of money, I think they might not let you. But the thing is, if like, for example, if I save a whole bunch of money in the bank, if I want to withdraw like 300,000, I can do that. They give you that in cash, you don't have to go through this whole process as long as you can prove it's your account. So they save it in the banks, but they also can withdraw whatever money they want to, however much, from the bank.
Mhm. Any other questions, comments? Oh, well, thank you so much. You've just provided us just with a whole bunch of information concerning your culture, and we can
Thank you.
parallels between your culture and our culture, and we see the things that are different. Thank you so much. So how much longer do you think that you will not be able to eat the American food?
I ate the unhealthy ones because they're really good. Well, because we have them back home, burgers, but I don't like pizza. I don't know. People think I'm weird for that, but I think it's overrated. But
You don't like
barbecue,
pizza?
no, barbecue stuff is good though. I like the barbecue that I get from the Thanksgiving, like the American barbecues. They're good, but mac and cheese, no. So I think I'm gonna stick with Nigerian foods, honestly. But it's so expensive because I have to get them from the African store and they're expensive.
Ah, I see.
And
Well,
Joyce, this is Connie, and I'm not sure if you answered these questions, and I'll let Lucia jump in, but there are
Okay.
two questions that might still be in the chat. One is, Sandra, we'd like to know your three names. And the second one, you can maybe chat those for us. But the second one is this a locked social society? In other words, if you're born rich or born poor, is there no mobility, upward or downward mobility? So can you change your life
Yeah. Oh,
economically?
definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Lucia, do you need to say something with that? Or did it translate?
Vania chiedeva se si nasce ricchi e si rimane ricchi o si nasce poveri e si rimane poveri, ma no, diceva che si può cambiare lo status. Insomma. Ecco.
Yeah, you can definitely move up. Even the rich can always move down. It's not like impossible or, for the poor to climb up. No. It's usually, yeah, it's just as it's easier for the poor people, the rich people to go back down being poor if a wrong business move is made, or if the man dies and his brothers, depending on the kind of family you come from and tribe, can take over the man's wealth. So now the wife and her kids are down being poor, just like, the rest of everyone else. And it's just as, as the poor people can, it just takes one person in your family to really make good money and move up. And then they usually bring everyone along with them up. So it's not like this only the rich stays rich kind of thing. So no.
Well, I have a follow-up question then with that. So, and Lucia will need your help, is what about marriages? Like, is there like, do people tend to marry in the same socioeconomic level? Or like if you marry somebody who's here, then do you suddenly, you come into the higher economic status? Did Lucia need to say something there? Maybe.
Okay. I think it translates.
Se anche i matrimoni sono, diciamo, assortiti per livello di ricchezza, se chi è ricco deve sposarsi con chi è ricco, e povero col povero, oppure se ci può essere la possibilità di mescolare.
Sorry, I totally forgot your question. But you asked, what did you ask again? I'm so sorry.
Okay, ask her what happens with
oh yeah, the marriage stuff. Yes. Okay, so back in the day, it was like that. It was very hard. The rich, sometimes the daughter or the son will fall in love with someone from a lower class, and it was like a slap in the face for the family, and it was a no-no. And they would have to, you have to marry someone, of your social status back then. And this is for like all the tribes. But now it depends on the individual family. Now it just depends on individual family, because now you can marry high, low. Your parents may disapprove, but again, with the Igbo culture, if the woman doesn't, because they can bring in a rich person for you to marry, but if the lady says no, you can't go through with it. But now they kind of, it depends on the family now. Back then it was pretty bad. You have to marry from a social, someone who's rich, someone who's poor wouldn't even feel comfortable approaching you. And honestly, both worlds do not mix, because the circle, the social events that the rich people go to, the poor people are not usually, can't really get into those places. But now, some people are just, you can marry whoever you want to marry. But you have some families who are still bent on, you need to marry someone on your level. That way, you're making more generational wealth or whatever. But now it's much less bad than how it was back then. And you can marry from different tribes as well. It doesn't have to be the same tribe. So yeah, now it's less. You can marry someone poor. Your parents may disapprove, but eventually they will come around.
What about marrying someone from a different religion?
Oh, in Nigeria, I will say the Christians are not, it doesn't, if you want to marry someone who's Muslims, your parents may, worry and be like, what religion are the kids? But you can do that regardless. But it's more so a problem if it's a Muslim person who's bringing in a Christian person. Depending on the place, like in the northern part, which is where they're usually 99% all Muslims, they don't take that very likely. They would disown the child, or you can be killed for that. So it just depends. Usually it's the Muslim families who are not really into that. But Christian's family, they would rather you, bring someone who's a Christian, but if it's a Muslim and you're sure that's who you want to marry, then sure. But they would rather you bring a Christian into it.
And your three names?
Oh, well, you already know my name, Sandra, which is my English name. And then my Igbo name is Niamaka. And it means motherhood is beautiful. And I also have another name called Tochineke, which means praise God, basically.
You'll have to chat those for us, because I'm sure whether it's English or Italian, we don't know what it looks like.
Okay.
So please chat those. I want to thank everyone, and especially Sandra, for these are excellent presentations and very valuable to us in our understanding of diversity, because I know Nigeria is not that far from Italy, a lot closer to Italy than the United States, and yet it is so very different, so it's really, really wonderful in a lot of ways. I think culturally superior, it sounds like, to what some of the practices in the United States. So we all can learn, that's for sure.
Yes,
so any other questions? No? I want to thank everyone and remind you tomorrow is our last lecture at 11 o'clock, which of course is 18 hours in Italy. And it is about the Black culture over the centuries in Paris. So I'll let Lucia remind you, and I hope we'll see everyone tomorrow, but we will post things on YouTube as well. So
thank you, everyone. It was a fantastic lesson today.
Okay, so I'm going to close the meeting. Thank you,
thank you,
Sandra, for excellent work. Okay,
Thank you, Sandra.
see you. Bye.
Bye.